Hello people, this is Self-Tuts, and in this video we are going to do the SSH setup in our virtual machine cluster. So basically we'll be doing a hostname configuration and other things so that each machine can contact to each other. In the last video we did the network setup where we did some configuration so that the IP address of all the three machines should be static and they should also connect to the internet. In this one we'll do the SSH setup so that the IP address can be used to make the connection. For this particular video, what we need to do is we need to start all the three machines and we need to set up the host name. So the host name is the name that we give to a particular virtual machine. So for work machine, the host name that will be given is workmachine.cluster.local. So this is the name from which we can identify the work machine, and this host name is connected to the IP address. So it is very difficult to remember the IP address every time, so that you can just use the host name and then you can connect to the machine, so it is better readable. So basically the work machine will be given the host name as work machine cluster.local, the node 1 will be given node1.cluster.local, and node 2 will be given node2 cluster.local. So if you have up to n nodes, so you can define your virtual machine cluster in this way only, like node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4 up to n if you want. Now the command to set this host name is called as hostname ctl, set hostname and the name that you provide. After you have done this step, then you need to go to the host file and change the new name which you have given from the old name that was present. So for node 1 also we'll do the same thing, node 3 means node 1, and then for node 2 we will also do the same thing. So for this what we need to have, we need to start our virtual boxes. So first this is powered off all the three work machine, node 1 and node 2. So in this series we have created these three virtual machines. So I'll try to start this one, and after this window is started I'll try to start node 1, and after that I'll try to start this node 2. So I've started all these three virtual machines. So it will take some time to start depending on the speed of your computer. So after all the three machines have started, what we'll do, we'll just try to set this configuration. As you can see, all the three machines have started. So I'll come to this first machine. It will ask me for the password. I'll come here, I'll enter the password, and then what we will do is we'll try to open the terminal so that we can do the configuration. So I'll click here and here I'll type terminal, and then we'll start this terminal. So if I start this terminal, if I say if config, so you will see that we have this interface enp0s8 and this is the IP address. So in the previous video we have done all these things, that how to provide this static IP address. Now how to change it is using this command hostname ctl set hostname workmachine cluster.local. So I'll come here and I'll say sudo hostname ctl and then set host name, that will be equal to workmachine.cluster.local. So you need to remember or type this name correctly. So it is sudo hostname ctl set hostname workmachine cluster.local. I'll hit enter. So it will ask me the password. I'll hit it and the host name has been set. Now what I need to do, I need to change this etc host file for this to take into effect. So I'll say sudo vim/etc and then hosts. Okay, the file has opened and you can see here this 172 is called as Self-Tuts, and then what we need to do, we need to type the IP address. So the IP address for this machine was what, 192.168.1.110. So as you remember, and the name is what, workmachine.cluster.local. so it is workmachine.cluster.local. so it is fine here. Now if I say host name, so it is doing fine, workmachine.cluster.local. so if I type again host name, so it is workmachine.cluster.local. Now we'll do the same thing for this particular one, that is the node 1, and we'll do the login first. So it is Self-Tuts and then the password. So I'll enter the password here and then we'll type the same command, that is sudo hostname ctl set hostname is equal to node1.cluster.local. So this is the hostname. Please let me verify. This is node1.cluster.locate is fine. Set hostname. So I'll hit enter. This will ask me the password. So I have hit the password correctly. Then what I need to do, I need to change this in etc host file. So etc host, okay, not sudo only, that will be equal to vim, and then so I'll come here and this time what I'll type 192.168.1. This is 110 and this is 120. As we remember, I'll show you the IP address also. So this will be node1.cluster.local. So 192.168.120. So if I say if config, you can see the IP address is the enp0s8 is 192.168.1.120. Now the same thing needs to be done for the second machine, that is node 2. I'll type the username and then password. So we are inside the machine, and once it is done, so we'll type cd hostname ctl set hostname is equal to node2.cluster.local. So be very careful while typing the name. If there's a typo, then that can create a problem. So this is node2.cluster.local. So it's fine. I'll hit enter and I'll give the password. Okay, so there's something. Okay, it's host name ctl. Okay, fine. Now again what I need to do, vim/etc/ first check the IP address. What is the IP address? So if config, and the IP address you can see in the enp0s8 is 192.168.1.130. So I'll say vim/etc and then hosts. So I'll come here and I'll type 192.168.1.130. so that will be equal to node2.cluster.local. okay, that is node2.cluster.local. now, and we'll save it. Now since you want this machine, that is work machine, to contact to node 1 and node 2, and if there are more nodes, then you need this work machine, because this is the entry point to connect to all the nodes. So we need to put the configuration here also. So again we'll come here in the work machine, we'll type etc hosts, and what we need to do, we need to provide the IP address for the node 1. So that is equal to 168.1.120. So this is fine, and then node1.cluster.local. Same way we'll type 192.168.1.130. okay, so the top one was, there's a mistake, it will be 120. So this is 192.168.1.30, 130, and that will be equal to node2.cluster.local. so I need to save this file and let's see that are we able to connect. So I'll type ping and then node1.cluster.local. so you can see we are getting 64 bytes. So why we are getting 64 bytes? Because we can connect to this particular machine, that is node 1, on that NAT network which we have defined in the previous video. Now I'll try to connect, or that will be equal to ping node2.cluster.local. so this time you can see again we are able to connect to node 2. so this is how we made the connection through a host name and not through IP address. Now once this particular thing has been done, that is we have set up the host name, then what we need to do, we need to do a SSH setup. So this work machine, there is node 1 and there is node 2. So SSH setup is needed because you need to install something to the machine through Ansible or anything, or some software is there that need to go inside to the node 1 or node 2 and do some configuration changes. So that we are going to do, we are going to do the SSH setup. So work machine, node 1 and node 2 are there. So work machine should be able to SSH to all the other nodes. So what we need to do, we need to install SSH server on node 1 and node 2. So this is SSH server, this is SSH server. So these two nodes will have SSH server running. So that we can do by using this command, sudo apt install open SSH server. Then what we need to do, if you want to check the status that it is running or not, you can do it from here, sudo systemctl status ssh. And again, if you want to enable the SSH server to run on every restart, that is if I restart node 1, then automatically this SSH server will be up and running, then you need to type this command. So what we'll do, we'll go to this node 1 first and then we will say sudo apt install open ssh server. So let's see what it does. It says yes. So now this particular SSH server has been installed. So we can say sudo system, so systemctl, and then we can say status of this SSH. So it is saying up and running, that is active and running. Now we want this SSH server to start on a when the machine starts. So we'll type sudo systemctl and then enable. So this command helps to register a particular service on the startup. So that has been done. The same we need to do here on our node 2. So what we'll do, we'll type sudo apt and then install open ssh server. The open ssh server has successfully installed. So we'll check the status. So it is sudo systemctl and then status and then ssh. So it is also active and running. Now we'll try to do what? We'll try to put it inside the when the system will start, it should run. So that is systemctl enable and then ssh. So this is done and fine. So this step we have done, that we have installed SSH server on both the machines. The next is what? We need to generate a SSH key on this work machine. Since the entry point is work machine and we always want to connect node 1 and node 2 through this work machine, so we'll generate a key and we'll put that key inside node 1 and node 2. So that key can be generated using this ssh-keygen command here, and this key will be put inside the node 1 and node 2, so that only work machine is having a direct access to node 1 and node 2 and no other machine can directly access. Now we'll try to generate this ssh-keygen for our work machine. So we'll go to this work machine and we'll type ssh-keygen, and this will say what? Generate public private RSA key pair home self-tut. So you need to see that here it can be root also. So we are generating this ssh-keygen for self-tuts user. Okay, so I'll hit enter, enter and enter. So basically you need to keep in mind that for the user which is through which you want to connect to this node 1 and node 2, the SSH key should be generated for that only, that user. So if we go inside cd.ssh, and here you can see that id rsa and id rsa dot public. So this is the public key. Now once the key has been generated in this work machine, what you need to do, you need to copy these keys to node 1 and node 2. For this we are having another command, that is ssh-copy and this one. So ssh-copy-id. So we'll come to this particular thing, and what we need to do, we'll type the command ssh-copy id and then -i, and then we need to provide the key. So the key is present where? SSH, and then my key is not, it is id rsa pub, and then we need to type the host where you need to provide, you need to put it there. So that will be equal to self-tuts @ where node1 dot cluster dot local. So see now the importance of host name. So we are not connecting to node 1 using its IP address, we are connecting it using our host name. So we'll hit enter, then we need to type the command yes, and we need to provide the password. Okay, so let's see, it is saying what is the output? Number of keys added is equal to 1. So we have successfully added the key. So if you do ssh here and then only node1.cluster.local, so you can see we are inside this node 1. As you can see, we are inside node 1. If we do exit, so we are inside self-tut. So see how beautiful it is. We have kept this SSH key inside here and we are directly logging inside the node 1. Now the same thing should be done for node 2, that we need to copy this same key file. So what we need to do, we need to come here, SSH copy the same file, and this time it will be node 2. Hit enter, yes, and then the password. Fine. Now if you want to do SSH, so what we need to do, node2.cluster.local, and you can see you are inside this node 2. So this work machine is having a direct connection with this node 1 and node 2 without entering the password. Why? Because this node 1 and node 2 knows the key from which we are trying to access this node 1 and node 2. So when work machine is trying to access to node 1, it will send this key and that will be present here because we just added it. and we will be able to log in. So suppose there is some tools like Ansible which we run here, and it will try to install a software to all the nodes. So in that case, what will happen, since it is having the key, so you will not be prompted to enter the password every time. So this is one of the important thing in the cluster setup. Now what happens is, if I come to this machine here and I do sudo power off, so what this will do, this will try to shut down the machine. Same way I'll do here what, sudo power off. So now both the machines have been stopped, and if I come here, and this time what I'll do, I will run them in headless mode, so there will be no window. So this is headless start, and for this also what we'll do headless start. Okay, so this work machine is running with the desktop mode, and this node 1 and node 2 are running with your headless start. So I'll just close this one, I'll make this full size or full screen. So we are having this terminal, I'll clear this terminal, and let's see if the machine starts, then we will be able to do the SSH. So first we'll do ping node1.cluster.local. so see, it is giving me 64 byte, which means the machine has already started. So I'll do node1.ssh.cluster.local. so you can see that what happens. Okay, so you are inside node 1, so that is means it is working perfect fine. Again, I'm inside this self-darts, you can see the name is self-darts, and if I want to go inside node 2, so I'll type node2.cluster.local. so this time I'll enter inside node 2, so you can see the name has changed, node 2. So this was all about how to do this cluster setup. So now the cluster has been perfectly set up, that you have 2 nodes and 1 as work machine, and you can connect to this work machine to these nodes from the work machine using some SSH tool. We have set the host name, in that we have done all those installation and the network configuration. So this cluster has been is active. So this was all about this whole series of setting up the cluster of virtual machine. So hope you like this video, hope you like my channel. So please subscribe my channel and please share these videos with other people. Thank you.